Ambassador Lee Minho walked through the long halls of Station Harmony. The walls were made of clear crystal that sparkled like diamonds. Through them, he could see the stars and the many ships that came from different worlds. This place was the heart of peace in the galaxy. For 300 years, 17 different alien species had worked together here. They traded goods, shared knowledge, and solved problems without fighting. It was a miracle that nobody thought could happen. Wars had torn the galaxy apart for thousands of years before this peace began. Lee stopped at a large window and watched a group of tall, blue-skinned Altarians talking with short, furry Kellans about a new medicine. Just yesterday, these two species had been enemies. Now they were partners. This was what humanity had helped build. Dr. Park Jae-yeon hurried past him with a data pad in her hands. She was reading reports from the human colonies on the edge of known space. These worlds grew food for everyone in the galaxy. Millions of people from different species lived there together, farming and learning from each other. The harvest on New Eden is the best we have ever seen, she told Lee with a smile. We can feed the Zephyrian refugees for another full year, Lee nodded. The Zephyrians had lost their homeworld in the last war before the peace began. Humans had given them new homes and helped them start over. It was what humans did now. They built instead of destroyed. In the medical section of the station, Dr. Choi Minji was treating a sick Kalanic child. The little creature had fur that was turning from brown to white because of a rare disease. But Dr. Choi had found a cure using medicine that came from 3 different worlds. The child would live and grow up healthy. Thank you, human doctor, the child's mother said in broken Terran language. You saved my baby. Dr. Choi smiled and patted the child's head gently. This was why the peace mattered. Children could grow up without fear of bombs or soldiers. They could play and learn and dream about the future, but not everyone was happy with the peace. Far from Station Harmony, on the dark world of Voss Prime, military leaders met in secret rooms. Admiral Thek pounded his fist on a metal table as he spoke to his officers. Look how weak the humans have become, he said with anger in his voice. Once they were the fiercest warriors in the galaxy. They conquered worlds and built an empire that stretched across the stars. Now they grow flowers and heal sick aliens. The other Voss officers nodded. They remembered the old stories about human armies that never gave up, never retreated, never showed mercy to their enemies. Those humans had been worthy opponents. These new humans seemed soft and weak. They have forgotten how to fight, said General Vex. 300 years of peace has made them into farmers and doctors. They are no longer warriors. Back on Station Harmony, Admiral Kang Seolgi was reading intelligence reports in her small office. She had kept her military rank even though there was peace because someone needed to watch for danger. What she was reading made her worried. The Voss were moving ships to the edge of their territory. They were building new weapons in secret factories. Their leaders were making speeches about the glory of war and conquest. All the signs pointed to trouble coming. She went to find Ambassador Lee. She found him in the garden section of the station, watching human children play with alien friends. A small human girl was teaching a young Altarian how to throw a ball. They were laughing together. We need to talk, Admiral Kang said quietly. Lee looked at her serious face and followed her to a private room. She showed him the reports about Voss military movements. They are planning something, she said. I think they want to test us. They think we have forgotten how to defend ourselves. Lee read the reports carefully. He had spent his whole life working for peace. The idea that someone might destroy it made him feel sick inside. The other species will not want to hear this, he said. They are comfortable with peace. They do not want to think about war again. But we have to warn them, Admiral Kang said. If the Voss attack, people will die. Lee thought about the children playing in the garden. He thought about Dr. Choi, saving alien lives, and Dr. Park feeding hungry refugees. He thought about all the good things that peace had brought to the galaxy. I will try, he said. But I do not think they will listen. That night, Lee stood alone on an observation deck looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there in the human colonies, families were sleeping safely in their beds. Children were dreaming about tomorrow. Scientists were working on cures for diseases. Artists were creating beautiful things. The peace was precious, but it was also fragile. Lee had always known this. Peace was like a garden that needed constant care. If you stopped watching over it, weeds would grow and destroy everything. Beautiful. He did not know that far away, Admiral Thek was giving orders to his fleet commanders. The Voss had decided to remind the galaxy what war looked like. They would start with the soft, weak humans who had forgotten how to fight. The peace that had lasted 300 years was about to be tested. The alarm bells on New Eden started, ringing at dawn. Colony manager Yoon Ha-jin was drinking his morning coffee when the first reports came in. Ships were coming out of hyperspace above the planet. Big ships. Warships. This must be a mistake, he said to his assistant. No one has attacked a civilian world in 300 years. But it was not a mistake. The Voss fleet had arrived, with their weapons already charging. Admiral Thek stood on the bridge of his flagship looking down at the peaceful world below. He could see farms, schools, hospitals, and homes where families lived together in safety. Begin the attack, he ordered. The first plasma beams hit the main city. Buildings that had stood for 200 years turned to dust in seconds. People ran screaming through the streets, but there was nowhere to hide. The Voss ships fired again and again, turning the beautiful world into burning ruins. Yoon Ha-jin tried to send a message for help, but the Voss jammed all communications. He watched through his office window as fire fell from the sky. A school exploded just as children were trying to run away. A hospital full of patients vanished in a ball of flame. "Why are they doing this?" his assistant cried. "We never hurt anyone. We just grow food and help people." Yoon Ha-jin had no answer. He grabbed the emergency radio and tried to warn other colonies, but he was too late. The Voss had planned their attack carefully. 27 human worlds were burning at the same time. On Research Station Alpha, Dr. Choi Minji was treating a sick Kalanic child when the attack began. The little girl she had cured just days before was playing in the station's garden when the first explosions shook the walls. "Doctor, help!" the child's mother screamed as metal beams fell from the ceiling. Dr. Choi ran to help, but she was too late. The little girl was trapped under heavy metal, her brown fur now red with blood. Dr. Choi held the child's small hand as she died. "Why didn't the grown-ups protect us?" the little girl whispered, before her eyes closed forever. Those words would stay in Dr. Choi's mind for the rest of her life. She had saved so many lives, but she could not save this one innocent child from the cruelty of war. The attacks continued for 3 days. The Voss destroyed everything they could find. Farms that fed millions of people, medical centers that cured diseases, schools where human and alien children learned together, art galleries full of beautiful paintings, libraries with books from 100 different worlds. They killed farmers, teachers, doctors, artists, and children. They did not care who died as long as they were human or friends of humans. By the time the killing stopped, 2.3 million people were dead. Ambassador Lee Min-ho received the casualty reports on Station Harmony. His hands shook as he read the numbers. Entire families wiped out. Whole cities turned to ash. Children who would never grow up. Scientists who would never make new discoveries. "How could this happen?" he asked Admiral Kang Sulgi. "We had peace. We were helping everyone. We were not threatening anyone." Admiral Kang's face was hard as stone. "The Voss thought we were weak. They thought 300 years of peace had made us forget how to fight. They were wrong." Lee called an emergency meeting with representatives from all 17 species. He stood before them with tears in his eyes and showed them pictures of the destroyed worlds. "The Voss have murdered millions of innocent people," he said. "They have broken the peace that we all worked so hard to build. We need your help to stop them." But the other species looked uncomfortable. The Altarian delegate spoke first. "This is very sad," he said. "But we cannot risk another galactic war. Perhaps if humans had been more careful, this would not have happened." The Kalanic representative nodded. "We offer our sympathy, but we must think of our own people. War brings too much death." One by one, the other species gave the same answer. They were sorry about the dead humans, but they would not fight. They wanted to keep the peace, even if it meant letting the Voss get away with murder. Lee felt his heart breaking. These were the people humanity had helped for 3 centuries. They had fed their hungry, healed their sick, and protected their children. Now, when humans needed help, they turned away. You would let mass murderers go free too. Keep your comfort, he said quietly. We prefer peace to revenge, the Altarian replied. That night, Lee walked through the empty halls of Station Harmony. The alien delegates had gone back to their ships, eager to forget about the human dead. The crystal walls that once sparkled, with hope now seemed cold and dark. He stopped at a memorial wall where the names of war victims were written. Soon, 2.3 million new names would be added. Farmers, doctors, teachers, children, artists, scientists, all dead because someone thought humans had forgotten how to protect themselves. Lee pressed his hand against the cold wall and made a promise to the dead. The galaxy thinks we have gone soft. They think we have forgotten what we are capable of. They will learn how wrong they are. In the deepest vaults of Earth, ancient computers began to wake up. Signals were sent to hidden bases across human space. The Human Defense Corps, sleeping for 300 years, opened its eyes and remembered what it was made to do. The Voss had wanted to see if humans still knew how to fight. They were about to get their answer. Deep under the city of Seoul, in places that had been locked away for 300 years, red lights began to flash. General Lim Wubin stood in front of a massive steel door that had not opened since his great-grandfather's time. The door was covered in warnings written in Old Terran script. "Are you sure about this, General?" asked his aide, Captain Song Da-hyun. "Once we open this, there is no going back." General Lim looked at the reports from the destroyed colonies one more time. Pictures of dead children, burned hospitals, and ruined schools filled his mind. "They wanted to see if we still remember how to fight," he said. "Let's show them." He placed his hand on the scanner. The massive door groaned and slowly opened. Inside, rows of machines hummed to life after centuries of sleep. Computer screens lit up with information about weapons, ships, and soldiers that the galaxy had forgotten existed. The Human Defense Corps had never really died. It had only been sleeping, waiting for the day when humanity would need it again. That day had come. On the hidden moon base of Titan 7, Captain Park Ji-hoon watched as the great ship hangars opened for the first time in 300 years. Inside were warships that looked nothing like the crude weapons of the old human empire. These ships were beautiful and terrible, designed by minds that had spent centuries thinking about peace but never forgot the price of war. The Dreadnought, Remembrance, was the largest ship ever built by human hands. Its hull was black as space itself, and its weapons could destroy entire fleets. Captain Song Da-hyun walked through its empty corridors, her footsteps echoing in the silence. "Power up all systems," she ordered her crew. "It's time to wake up, the sleeping giant." The ship's reactor began to hum. Lights came on throughout the massive vessel. Weapons systems that had been dormant for centuries started their power-up sequences. The Remembrance was coming back to life, and with it, the memory of what humans could do when they chose to fight. But this was not the old human military that had conquered worlds with brute force. 300 years of peace had taught humanity patience, planning, and precision. They had learned to think before they acted, to plan every move carefully, and to strike only when victory was certain. Dr. Park Ji-yeon, who had once grown food to feed refugees, now worked in a different kind of laboratory. She was creating something that would make the Voss regret their attack on innocent people. Her hands moved carefully as she worked on weapons that could target specific DNA patterns. The Voss would find that their attack on civilians had consequences they never imagined. "Is it ready?" asked General Lim when he visited her lab. "Almost," she replied. "The Voss think they are safe in their ships and on their worlds. They will learn that there is nowhere they can hide from justice." Across human space, people who had been farmers, doctors, teachers, and artists began to remember their other training. Every human child learned about war in school not to glorify it but to understand its costs. They learned strategy, tactics, and weapons handling alongside art, music, and medicine. The galaxy had mistaken this education for weakness, but it was actually preparation. Commander Kim Tae-hyung had spent decades healing the sick in peaceful hospitals. Now he stood in the armory of a war station, checking weapons that could level cities. His medical knowledge would help him understand exactly how to cause the most damage to Voss biology. "I took an oath to do no harm," he said quietly to himself. But the Voss broke that oath when they murdered children. On Station Harmony, Ambassador Lee Min-ho sent a message to every corner of the galaxy. His voice was calm and cold as he spoke. "To the species of the Galactic Accords who chose to abandon us in our time of need, we understand your position. You want peace at any cost, even if that cost is the lives of innocent people. We respect your choice." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "To the Voss hegemony, who believe that humanity has grown weak and forgotten how to fight, we have a message for you. You wanted to test us. You wanted to see if we still remember how to wage war. The answer is yes. We remember everything." The message was broadcast across every communication channel in known space. In the Voss military headquarters, Admiral Thek watched with growing unease. Something in the human ambassador's voice made him nervous. "They are just trying to scare us," he told his officers. "Humans have been peaceful for 300 years. They have forgotten their warrior nature." But deep in his heart, Admiral Thek was beginning to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. On Earth, in the great military academies that had been turned into schools for diplomats and peacekeepers, the old war rooms were opening again. Maps of Voss space covered the walls. Intelligence reports detailed every Voss military base, every political leader, every weakness that could be exploited. Admiral Kang Sulgi stood before a group of officers who had spent their careers keeping peace. Now they would learn to make war. "The Voss have given us a gift," she said. "They have shown the galaxy their true nature. They have revealed that they cannot be trusted with peace. Now we will show them what happens to those who murder the innocent." The human war machine was awakening, and it was more terrifying than anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was powered not by rage or hatred, but by memory, justice, and the promise that the dead would be avenged. The Voss had broken the peace. Now they would learn why humanity had chosen peace in the first place. The first human attack came without warning, just like the Voss had done to the colonies. But this was different. This was precise, calculated, and terrifying in its perfection. Commander Pei Jinhuan led his fleet to the Voss supply depot at Kepler Station. The Voss expected a brutal assault with lots of explosions and death. Instead, they found something much worse. The humans took the station apart piece by piece, capturing every supply ship, every piece of equipment, and every bit of information about Voss military operations. "Where are our reinforcements?" asked the Voss commander as his men surrendered. "They are not coming," Commander Bay replied calmly. "We cut off all communication to your homeworld 6 hours ago. Your fleet commanders do not even know you are under attack." This was the new human way of war. They did not destroy everything like wild animals. They were surgeons cutting away their enemy's ability to fight with deadly precision. Captain Seo Yuna was hunting Admiral Thek, the Voss leader who had ordered the attack on the human colonies. But she was not just chasing him through space. She was using every friendship, every trade agreement, and every diplomatic contact that humanity had built during 3 centuries of peace. The Kalanic government, which had refused to help humans when they were attacked, suddenly found their space lanes blocked by human ships. Their merchant vessels could not reach their trading partners. Their economy began to collapse within days. "This is not fair," the Kalanic ambassador protested to Captain Seo. "We are neutral in this conflict." "You were neutral when our children were murdered," she replied. "Now you can be neutral while your people starve. Your choice." The Altarians discovered that their medical supplies from human worlds had stopped coming. Their hospitals began to run out of medicines that could only be made on human-controlled planets. Diseases that had been cured for decades started to return. Every species that had abandoned humanity when they needed help was now feeling the consequences. The humans were not attacking them directly, but they were showing them what life was like without human friendship and support. Meanwhile, Admiral Thek was running for his life. Everywhere he went, he found that his allies had abandoned him. The Voss had many friends when they were strong, but now those friends were afraid of human revenge. "We cannot help you anymore," the Zorblaxian Prime Minister told him over a secret communication channel. "The humans know about our weapons deals with you. They have threatened to publish the information unless we cut all ties." Thek's fleet was falling apart. His supply lines were cut. His bases were captured or destroyed. His officers were deserting him. Worst of all, he could not understand how the humans were doing it. They seemed to know his every move before he made it. What Thek did not know was that Dr. Park Ji-yeon had spent the peaceful centuries building something more dangerous than any weapon. She had created a network of information that stretched across the entire galaxy. Every alien friend that humans had made, every student they had taught, every patient they had healed, had become part of this network. "The Voss commander is hiding on Asteroid Base 47, reported a Galactic doctor who had been saved by human medicine years ago. "He will try to escape tomorrow at dawn." "Thek's second-in-command is planning to surrender," said an Altarian student who had studied at human universities. "He wants to make a deal to save his own life." The network was everywhere. The humans had spent 300 years making friends and helping people. Now those friends were helping them in return, even when their own governments tried to stay neutral. General Lim Wubin watched the war progress from his command center on Earth. Red dots on the tactical display showed Voss positions disappearing one by one. But this was not like the old human wars, where armies crashed into each other until one side was destroyed. This was more like a chess game, where every move was planned far in advance. "Status report," he asked his aide. "Voss fleet strength is down by 70%, Captain Song Dayun reported. Their supply network is completely broken. Admiral Thek is trapped in the outer rim with only 12 ships left. And civilian casualties? 0 on our side. Voss civilian casualties are also minimal. We are only targeting military assets and the leaders who ordered the attack on our colonies." This was what 300 years of peace had taught humanity. They had learned to fight with precision instead of rage. They knew the difference between justice and revenge. They would punish those who had murdered innocent people, but they would not become murderers themselves. Commander Kim Tae-hyung, who had once healed alien children in peaceful hospitals, now stood on the bridge of a human warship as it approached the last Voss stronghold. His medical knowledge had helped him understand exactly how to disable Voss ships without killing their crews. "Admiral Thek, you are surrounded," he broadcast to the enemy fleet. "Surrender now, and your people will be treated with honor. Continue to fight and you will be destroyed." The response was silence. Then, slowly, the Voss ships began to power down their weapons. One by one, they surrendered to the humans they had thought were weak and helpless. The war was almost over. The Voss had learned that humanity's 3 centuries of peace had not made them weak. It had made them something far more dangerous, patient, careful, and absolutely determined to protect the innocent from those who would harm them. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you awakened sleeping giants. Admiral Kwon Hyun-soo stood on the bridge of the human flagship as it approached Voss Prime. The enemy homeworld hung in space like a dark jewel, surrounded by the remains of what had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Now only broken ships and floating debris marked where the Voss military had made its final stand. "They want to surrender," reported Captain Song Dayun. "Admiral Thek is requesting permission to come aboard with the surrender documents." "Admiral," Kwon nodded slowly. The war was over, but the cost had been terrible. Not in human lives. The humans had fought with such precision that their casualties were minimal. The cost was in something deeper. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. When Admiral Thek stepped onto the human flagship, he was a broken man. His uniform was torn, his face was pale with exhaustion, and his hands shook as he signed the surrender papers. He looked up at Admiral Kwon with fear in his eyes. "I thought you had forgotten how to fight," he whispered. "We studied your history. We knew you had become peaceful. We thought that made you weak." Admiral Kwon's voice was quiet but firm. "We chose peace because we knew the cost of war. You forced us to remember that cost. Now your people will pay the price for your mistake." The surrender was complete and unconditional. The Voss military was disbanded. Their weapons were destroyed. Their leaders would face trial for the murder of 2.3 million innocent people. But the humans did not occupy Voss worlds or enslave their people. They were not conquerors. They were judges. Back on Station Harmony, Ambassador Lee Minho walked through the crystal halls once more. But everything had changed. The alien delegates who had once worked alongside humans now kept their distance. They whispered among themselves and watched the humans with nervous eyes. The Galactic ambassador approached Lee carefully, like someone approaching a sleeping tiger. "Ambassador Lee," he said in a shaky voice, "my government wants to apologize for not supporting you during the crisis. We hope we can return to the friendship we once had." Lee looked at him with cold eyes. "Your friendship was conditional. When we needed you most, you abandoned us. Now you want to be friends again because you are afraid of us." The Galactic delegate's fur turned pale. We were trying to preserve the peace." "You were preserving your comfort," Lee replied. "There is a difference." The same scene played out with delegate after delegate. The Altarians offered new trade deals. The Zorblaxians promised military cooperation. The Centaurians suggested joint research projects. All of them were trying to get back into humanity's good favor, now that they understood what humans were capable of. But Lee knew that the old trust was gone forever. The galaxy had seen what happened to those who thought they could hurt innocent humans and get away with it. Fear was not the same as friendship, but sometimes fear was more reliable. Dr. Choi Minji returned to her work healing the sick, but now alien patients looked at her differently. They were grateful for her help, but they also remembered that human doctors knew exactly how to harm as well as heal. She had saved thousands of lives during the peaceful years, but now everyone knew she could also target specific DNA patterns to create weapons that could kill entire species. "Are you afraid of me now?" she asked a young Galactic patient whose life she had just saved. The child's mother answered for him. "We are grateful, doctor, but we also understand that we must never give you reason to be angry with us." Dr. Choi felt sad as she heard those words. The innocent trust between species was gone, replaced by careful respect built on the knowledge of consequences. On the memorial wall in Station Harmony, 2.3 million names were carved in stone. Farmers, teachers, doctors, children, artists, and scientists who had died because someone thought humans were weak. Below their names, a simple message was written in 17 different languages. Humanity remembers. General Lim Wubin visited the memorial every day. He read the names of the children who would never grow up, the artists who would never create again, the scientists who would never make new discoveries. Their deaths had not been in vain. They had taught the galaxy an important lesson about the cost of breaking the peace. "Will we go back to the way things were before?" Captain Song Dayun asked him. "No," he replied. "The galaxy knows what we are now. They know that our choice to be peaceful comes from strength, not weakness. They know that we remember everything, and we have long memories." The peace was restored, but it was a different kind of peace. It was not based on trust and friendship alone. Now it was enforced by the certain knowledge that breaking it would bring swift and terrible justice. Species across the galaxy began to change their behavior. Trade disputes were settled quickly and fairly. Border conflicts were resolved through negotiation. No one wanted to be the next to face human justice. Ambassador Lee stood once more at the great window overlooking the stars. The galaxy looked the same, but everything had changed. The innocent peace of the past 3 centuries was gone, replaced by something harder but perhaps more lasting. A young human diplomat approached him. "Sir, do you think we did the right thing?" Lee thought about the question for a long moment. "We did what was necessary. The Voss wanted to test whether we still remembered how to fight. Now the entire galaxy knows the answer. Sometimes the best way to preserve peace is to make the cost of breaking it too terrible to consider." The stars shone down on a galaxy that had learned to distinguish between those who could not fight and those who chose not to. And in that distinction lay the foundation of a peace that would last for generations to come.